Imagine you are walking through a neighborhood you do not know well. The houses look cluttered to you, the yards are small, the noise from the street is constant. You think, how can anyone live like this? And then consider, really consider, the possibility that the person who lives there would not trade it for anything. That the particular arrangement of that porch, those neighbors, those specific sounds at a specific hour, constitutes a richness you cannot begin to perceive from where you are standing. This is the opening thought of one of William James's most important essays, On a Certain Blindness in Human Beings, published in 1899 as part of Talks to Teachers. James considered this piece one of the most significant things he ever wrote. He said so explicitly, which was unusual for a man not given to promoting his own work. The blindness he described was not a character flaw or a correctable intellectual failure. It was something structural and nearly universal, built into the basic condition of having a particular inner life while trying to inhabit a world full of people with entirely different ones. His argument runs like this. Every human being lives inside a subjective world that is, in its full texture and significance, entirely inaccessible to anyone else. The feelings, associations, memories, and meanings that make another person's life vivid and worthwhile to them are largely invisible to us from the outside. We can observe behavior. We can hear words. We can draw inferences. But the inner glow of another's experience, what James called the significance that a life holds for the person actually living it, this we almost never perceive directly. And we go through our days, James noticed, largely without trying. We judge. We categorize. We assume that because we cannot see the meaning in another person's choices, the meaning simply is not there. The clerk who seems to be drifting through a routine job, who knows what sustains her through the day, what private world she carries. The man standing at the corner who seems to be doing nothing. What inner life does that apparent stillness contain? James had a deep suspicion that most of what we dismiss as empty in the lives of others is, in fact, full of something real that we simply lack the patience to perceive. James drew on literary examples to make this argument vivid. Robert Louis Stevenson's descriptions of the intensity of outdoor life, Walt Whitman's almost religious attention to ordinary workers on the street. What these writers shared, James thought, was an unusual capacity to resist the normal human habit of projecting their own standard of significance onto others. They could hold the uncertainty of not knowing and remain genuinely curious rather than dismissive. They looked at other lives and felt the presence of something they could not fully see, and that sense of presence made them more careful, more humble, more interested in the inner lives around them. Now here is where James's argument becomes more than a lesson in modesty. He did not conclude from the fact of our blindness that empathy was impossible or that we should accept our limitations and move on. He concluded the opposite, that the recognition of our blindness should make us more humble in our judgments, more patient in our encounters, and more genuinely curious about the lives moving around us. The very fact that we cannot fully know another person's inner world is precisely the reason we should hold our quick assessments loosely. This is a more demanding version of empathy than the popular one. The popular version imagines empathy as the ability to feel what another person feels, to step inside their experience and share it, to bridge the gap through imaginative identification. James thought this was, in most cases, a pleasant fiction. We cannot fully step inside another's experience. We are bound, irreducibly, to our own. What we can do, and this is harder and ultimately more honest, is acknowledge that the other experience is there, that it is genuinely real, that it is probably richer and more complex than our quick read of it, and that we owe it a quality of respectful attention that goes well beyond mere tolerance. This distinction has practical weight. Empathy imagined as shared feeling can collapse into projection. We think we feel what the other feels, but we are actually feeling what we would feel in their position, which is an entirely different thing. James's version of empathy starts with the honest admission, I cannot fully know what it is like to be you. And from that admission grows something more reliable, a habit of pausing before judgment, of asking what significance this situation might hold for the person actually living it, of resisting the comfortable assumption that our way of valuing things is the natural or only way. In a culture organized around rapid categorical judgment, sorting people quickly into admirable or contemptible, with us or against us, James's certain blindness feels like an urgent corrective. Most people, most of the time, are doing something that makes complete sense from inside their experience. We just cannot see their experience clearly enough to understand what that is. The beginning of genuine empathy, James suggests, is not the warm feeling of connection. It is the honest acknowledgement of distance, and the deliberate decision to treat that distance not as a reason for dismissal but as an invitation to look more carefully and judge less quickly. Subscribe to The Psychology of William James to explore more of his timeless ideas.